Surprise, surprise, surprise. There is Oleksandr Usyk and his take on this weekend's fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. And he thinks that Conor Benn did enough to beat Chris Eubank Jr. And let me counterpunch. I think this goes to show you the fact of opinion. You know, that's why boxing is so difficult. I think that's one of the reasons they've brought in AI, as a judge, as far as, to compare and contrast with the opinion of other real judges. Oleksandr Usyk is a guy, he's been the shorter or the smaller guy in this equation, the faster, the quicker guy in most cases, right? With Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, Derek Chisora, you name it, he's been the smaller guy, right? And I think he's seen a lot of Conor Benn within his own body of work, okay? You think about it. Conor Benn landed shots that were crisp. He landed shots that were precise. The shots that he landed counted. The chopping shots, whereas Chris Eubank's shots were a lot of pressure shots. Some of them landed flush, but a lot of them were grazing punches, and they really counted from the pressure end. So when you saw that fight, you seen Chris Eubank Jr. being bigger, being taller, leaning with his body on top of Conor Benn, then throwing combinations in succession. Don't get me wrong. The fight was very entertaining, but it was very emotional, and emotion leads sloppiness. Okay. So, Oleksandr Usyk seeing the body of work that Chris Eubank or Conor Benn did, I think he can identify with. However, I'll say this. If you compare his last fight with Tyson Fury, it was similar to that. It was a lot dirtier. It was a lot murkier than their first fight together, him and Tyson Fury. And I think he saw a lot of that in that fight. But I'll say this. Oleksandr Usyk was a lot more precise with the shots that he landed, okay, than Conor Benn was. Even though Conor Benn did his thing in spots, I just don't think that they were enough to suffice winning the bout. You could have argued it's a draw, but the whole thing is, I did a poll on my channel. 83% thought that Chris Eubank Jr. won, whereas the rest, do the math, thought that Conor Benn won. A lot of other places, you go to a lot of other channels, you get different results. So a lot of people thought that Conor Benn got robbed. So for Oleksandr Usyk to pick Conor Benn as his winner is not too far-fetched, because, again, it was a close fight. It was a high-spirited fight, and this fight meant something to these fighters and their families. So they fought like the Dickens. They fought hard as hell. So, again, it doesn't really matter if Oleksandr Usyk did, but it does give Conor Benn some sense of confidence, knowing that the best fighter in the world, one of the pound-for-pound top fighters, thought that he beat Chris Eubank Jr., which was the winner of that fight. You guys tell me what you think of Oleksandr Usyk surprisingly picking Conor Benn over Chris Eubank Jr. this past weekend. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!